Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sentinel Sports Extra, Cleveland Cavaliers Weekly Report for January 12th, 2026. I'm Tim Shirer. This Cavs Weekly Report is brought to you by CT Roofing and Power Wash, the official roofer of the Lake County Sentinel. They can do all your roofing needs. If you need new siding, they can help you with that. They can give you an estimate on both things, roofing and siding. If you need your deck repaired, if you need your deck or your house or your drive power wash, they can do that also. They can come out and give you a free estimate. So call them at 440-278-0506, or they can also, if you call them for any of those things, the roofing and the siding, they can also see if they can help you file an insurance claim. So call them today, 440-278-0506. That's CT Roofing and Power Wash. So the Cavaliers, went 2-1 last week. That's what I predicted they would do. I'm very rarely right when I predict the record for them. The week before that, I predicted them to go 0-4, and they laughed at me and went 3-1. So this is, hopefully I'll be right again with what I'm going to say about this week. But we'll get to that a little later. For now, we've got some interesting things to talk about early. Interesting fact that could become a historical fact if it continues for the whole season. There are only two players in Cavs history to shoot 50% from the field and 45% from three-point range. The first one is Mark Price. He did it in 1980 during the 1988-87 season. And this season, it's not over yet, but Jalen Tyson is shooting 52% from the field and 45% from three-point range. When Mark Price did it, he shot 57%, 57% from the field, which is crazy, and 46% from three-point range. So, Mark Price was one hell of a shooter. I still think he should be in the Hall of Fame. It amazes me, and not that he wasn't good, but it amazes me that Bill Laimbeer is a finalist, but Mark Price is not in the Hall of Fame. Makes no sense to me. So basically you're saying if you don't win a championship, you can't get in. Well, how come guys from the New York Knicks are in, like Patrick Ewing? I don't know. But that's a interesting thing I thought that I would share, that Jalen Tyson is in pretty good company, being that he's tied for the same type of record right now as Mark Price. So current leaders, since we're speaking of three-point percentage, Sam Merrill is second right now in the Eastern Conference in three-point percentage. He is averaging 46% from three-point range, 81 of 176. That's pretty good. That's pretty good percentage. So we'll see if, he can keep that up, and, who knows? Maybe pass the leader and be the leader in the East from three-point percentage, because he is really good at three-point, shots. I might not give him the credit that some people do and call him Mark Price, because I don't think he is Mark Price. I don't think he's even close, but he's a pretty good three-point shooter. Mark Price played better defense and definitely distributed the ball better, I think. But let's talk about the past week, and then we'll get to the upcoming week, which starts tonight. So last week on Tuesday, the Cavaliers traveled to Indianapolis to play the Pacers. Donovan Mitchell sat out that game. The Cavs won 120-116. It was a close game. Teams like Indiana, who are very bad this year because of injuries and they lost some players, they still have a coach named Rick Carlisle. So you might say, 120-116. Gosh, they barely beat that terrible team. Yeah, but Rick Carlisle's teams rarely, get destroyed because he's such a great coach. So, but Darius Garland led the team that night on Tuesday with 29. Jared Allen had a double-double, 19 points and 12 rebounds, and Evan Mobley scored 20 points. Thursday night, the Cavs went to Minneapolis to play the Timberwolves at the Target Center. They lost 131-122. The bad third quarter did it, people. You can't, I'm telling you, you can't give up 40 points or more in like the second or third quarter and win a game. You could maybe give it up in the fourth like they did yesterday or on Saturday, 2 days ago. You might be able to if you're up by 20. But they got outscored 43-22 in the third quarter of that game on Thursday. And it just was not, they lost the game. Another game that they probably should have won. They've had at least 6 or 7 this year that they should have won. So, their record is what it is, 22-18, but it could very easily be 29-11. You know what I mean? But if they just closed out some games, and they just have had trouble doing that. As we mentioned Saturday, then they played Minnesota the second half of the home and home, and they played in Cleveland at Rocket Arena in front of a sold-out crowd. 5 Cavs had 20 points or more. It was a real nice effort by them. They played very good defense, I thought, in the second half. But the 5 Cavs with 20 points, Mitchell led everyone with 28. Mobley had 24. Tyson had 23. He was really sharp shooting from the 3-point range on Saturday, let me tell you. That corner right in front of the Timberwolves bench, I can think of at least 3 that he made from over there. And it was he was brutal as far as the Pistons, or as far as the Timberwolves would say. He was brutal from that spot. Garland had 22, Merrill had 20. As I said, the defense was very good in the second half. The final score of 146-134 isn't a real good interpretation of the game. The Cavs were up by 18 with 2:30 left. Atkinson pulled all of the regular rotation guys and finished with the guys at the end of the bench. Minnesota outscored the Cavs 8-2. So it looks like it was closer than it was. But it was a nice game by the Cavs, and they Minnesota scored a lot, but let me tell you something. Minnesota is a really, really good team. I was talking to a scout yesterday that told me, though, that Minnesota's coach, Chris Finch, could be on the hot seat, which I'm kind of stunned at because that team is good. It's not his fault that Oklahoma City is better talent-wise and that Houston is probably just a little better. And, Denver's good when Jokic is okay. So Chris Finch, I think, is doing a great job with the Timberwolves. So I don't understand how he could be on the hot seat, but, I'm going to trust people who are in the know, not just some person that spouts stuff. So the what do we got here? I'm sorry. I kind of lost my train of thought for a second there. The game, though, Saturday, it was the highest scoring game for the Cavs at Rocket Arena since January 20th, 2021, when they beat the Nets 147-135. And that was a double overtime game. Lots of old Cavs names in this one. Even though it was only 5 years ago, 3 former Cavs in this game. Colin Sexton had 42 that night for Cleveland. He led both teams in scoring. Jetty Osman had 25 in that game. I miss Jetty. I do. I miss him. Kevin Durant led the Nets that night with 38. And another former Cav, Kyrie Irving, had 37 for the Nets. So that's that was a high scoring game that night, and the Cavs prevailed in overtime, double overtime, of course, in front of a sold out house. Next up for the Cavs, we got the tonight at Rocket Arena. The Cavs welcome in the Utah Jazz. I will not be at this game. I have a previous commitment, so I will not be at this affair. But the Jazz take on the Cavs take on the Jazz. The Jazz are 13-24. They're 4-13 on the road this season. And they are 13th in the West. Some all-time. This is the first meeting between the two clubs this year. The Cavs swept last year and have won the last 4 in the series, and so the and 4 in a row at Rocket Arena. But the Jazz lead the all-time series. It's close, 62-54. But the Cavs do lead at home, which includes Cleveland Arena, Richfield Coliseum, and Rocket Arena. The Cavs lead that portion of the series, 36-22. There's all-time scoring leaders in this series. LeBron James is the all-time scorer for the series between the Jazz in a single game. He scored 51 on January 21st, 2006. The Cavs won that game 108-90. And this is very interesting. The crowd in Salt Lake City, as LeBron left the arena after the win, after he had the 51-point game, he heard the Salt Lake City crowd chant MVP and give him a standing ovation. How about that? When that happens on the road, that's pretty cool. So, but that was the all-time leading scorer, the all-time high-scoring game for a Cav against the Jazz. All-time rebounds in a game is held by Elmore Smith. Elmore Smith. That was February 7th, 1978. I was 10 years old. Cavs won the game, though, 122-99. In front of 7,209 at Richfield Coliseum. I feel that had to be a snowstorm that night or something for a crowd to be that small. That was that winter of 77-78. That was a brutal winter. It really was. And who wanted to go down, 71 to get to Richfield? Yeah, it wasn't fun. In bad weather. And I had season tickets. I think it was 89-90. And whatever year it was that Mark Price tore his ACL. I had season tickets. And I believe they played the Hawks 3 times in Richfield that year. And every time they played Atlanta, there was a snowstorm. I would ride down with one of my friends, and I'll never forget it. One of the nights, his windshield wiper broke on the way back, and it was snowing. Yeah, that wasn't good. But there's a fact that nobody wanted to know, but I told you anyway. So the assist record against Utah is 18, and that's by John Bagley. November 22nd, 1985. The Cavs did lose that game, 121-113, and that was in Utah. And at that time, it was called the Salt Palace. The Salt Palace. So Cavs lost that game. So that will be Monday night. They'll be taking on Utah. Then Wednesday, they play this 2-game series in Philadelphia. They'll play 2 games there. They play on Wednesday night at 7 at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. That place has had like 15 names since it's open. I swear it has. But the Sixers are now 21-16. Actually, they're 21-16. They are 6th in the Eastern Conference, and are 10-9 at home. So the Cavs are 1-0 against them this year. They did play them one time at Rocket Arena. The Cavs beat them 132-121. Joel Embiid did not play in that game, but that doesn't mean anything. Victor Wembanyama didn't play in one of the games against the Cavs this year, but he played in another one, and the Cavs still swept him. So that doesn't always matter. I mean, I know people like to make excuses. Make excuses for why they won, because, the only legitimate wins in Cleveland are for the Browns. There's always an excuse when the Cavs or the Guardians win a game. But I'm not going to get into that now. But Cavs are 1-0. They won that game 132-121. Joel Embiid didn't play, as we said. Donovan Mitchell had 46 that night. Jared Allen had 24 points and 10 boards. Evan Mobley had 23 points. 76ers do lead the all-time series. It's close, though. They do lead the all-time series 119-112, and the margin is not as big in Philly as you would think. They do lead 65-49 in Philadelphia. So the Cavs have a big advantage at home, 63-54. It's very close. This series is very close. So I feel like they'll be good. Both games, be good games because, they play, like I said, Wednesday night, and then they'll play again on Friday night at 7 at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. And, back-to-back, like Kenny Atkinson said, he likes these back-to-backs because you can make adjustments and it helps you prepare for the playoffs. And I think he's right about that. I would have to agree with him. You know what? I don't think he's right. I know he's right because he's an NBA coach and I'm not. I just cover the team. So in no way do I know as much as him. But that's one of the things I like about Kenny Atkinson, unlike the previous coach who would talk down to reporters. Kenny Atkinson never talks down to the media. He is very gracious with the media. I love the other night he walked in and he said, let's keep the questions short and I'll keep my answers short. And then he laughed and he said, I'm just kidding. He's just a good guy. I like Kenny Atkinson, and I hope this all works out. I hope they've started to play better lately, so I hope it works out. And, because there's rumors that he could be on the hot seat. I hope he isn't. I really like him. But, I think that's about it for this show. I feel like the Cavs are on the upswing, like I said. So I'm going to make a prediction. I am. For the upcoming week. Like I said last week, I was right. Very rarely I'm right. But I'm going to predict this week, as I did last week. I said they would go 2-1. I'm going to predict that they go 2-1 this week. I'm going to say they split with the 76ers and they beat the Jazz. So I don't think I'm really going far out on a limb with that. But you never know what could happen in the NBA. But I'm going to be safe and I'm going to go 2-1. So, but until remember Tuesday night we have a show. We have the beautiful Two Guys Talk Cleveland Sports, and that will be that will be at 8:00 with my partner Joey Schneider. We'll talk about the you see it scrolling across the bottom. We'll talk about all things Cleveland sports. We'll talk about the Cavs. We'll talk about the Guardians, and we'll talk about the Browns. We try to talk about all three equally. We go for an hour, and we try to talk about all three for about 20 minutes each. So, but until next week, if you're only a Cavs fan, until next week, or I see you before then, have a good night, and, I guess go Cavs, right?